everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video today, we are going to be talking about 8 things that I wish I knew before I started selling on KDP. So when I first got into it, I pretty much just watched a few YouTube tutorials, got a feel for how to design a book, how to upload it onto KDP, and once I understood that, I just went through the process. And as I continued to create more, I continued to learn more and more. So if you are still kind of new to KDP, even if you're a bit more experienced with it, I have some tips that will definitely help you out as you continue down the world of KDP. So let's get right into it. The first thing that I wish I knew is that your sales will ebb and flow. When I first got into creating and selling KDP books, I went through a whole bunch of different niches that I was trying out. I think everyone starts out with just simple notebooks and things like that, sketchbooks, just really simple interiors with somewhat simple designs just to get a feel for how everything works. And for me, that was the same. And eventually I started getting into composition books. And as I was creating and selling these composition books, I was getting a lot of sales for them, and I was like, wow, like this is my thing. Like I finally found what I enjoy creating and what makes a lot of sales, and I was so incredibly excited. And this was back in August, and what I didn't really realize at the time was that my success was largely related to the fact that it was back to school season, and because of that, a lot of people were buying composition books at that time. And so, you know, I was getting 10 to 20 sales a day, and it was amazing. And then after August kind of slipped and we got into September, my sales did not do quite so well. This is something that I was really disappointed about at first, but what I realized is that, I mean, that's just kind of how it works with niches at different times of the year. And so even though now my sales have lapsed in the whole composition book category, I am still making some sales in composition books. And I know that once August rolls around again this year, I will be making a bunch more sales. So it's just something to keep in mind. Your sales will not necessarily be consistent as the times change, as the years change, as the holidays go by, everything. Your sales will be reflected as a result, and that is something to keep in mind. It doesn't have anything to do with who you are as a KDP seller and how your books are. A lot of it just comes down to how things are at that time of year. So when creating your books, do not get discouraged if you see a lot of high sales and they suddenly plateau. Just figure out why that has happened, what you can do about it, and if there's nothing you can do, just move on to the next niche and wait for it to roll around again to the next year. The second thing I wish I knew is that it is important to have a good grasp of the rules. So when getting started, I kind of had a somewhat decent grasp of the rules. I was more following tutorials and going off of what they said and did. So for that, I wasn't necessarily following set rules that KDP had because I was just following the tutorials and trying to align myself with those. So I hadn't really dove into the rules when I first started. I kind of started reading them more as a few of my books would occasionally be rejected. The only reason that my books were being rejected was just because I was creating designs that didn't have any words on the cover, which is something that I learned early on. Like if it doesn't say notebook or anything anywhere throughout the design on the cover, then your book will most likely be rejected. So yeah, for me, I was kind of just learning the rules as I was going, which has been good and bad. I've never been really good at like sticking to strict rules, and KDP also has a ton of them, so it was really hard for me to be able to like understand all of them, especially with starting out here on YouTube. My goal here is really just to highlight my journey and what I've been learning as I've been going. And because of that, I don't know everything, and I have not known everything from the get-go, and I'm still learning. And because of that, sometimes I make mistakes here and there, and I try to do what I can to ameliorate them as needed. And yeah, from starting on YouTube, I've gotten a few comments from people telling me like, oh, like that's actually against the rules. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't realize that. And then I try and look up the rules, and honestly, KDP's rules, it's like a total maze. And yeah, sorry, I'm not going to go into like a whole rant about the rules, but just make sure that you've got a good grasp of the rules, know what is and isn't okay. I haven't experienced any personal repercussions. It's more just been people have been telling me, oh, that's not really in line with Amazon's rules, and I'm like, oh, okay, I will definitely take a mental note of that and see what I can do going forward. And I try and see if I can find it in the KDP guidelines. So just keep that in mind, because you definitely don't want to get your journey cut short just because of some little mishap that you didn't really realize, because some rules are more strict than others. Honestly, I think that there are some Amazon rules that aren't really kept I mean, I've broken some rules on accident and I haven't experienced anything yet. So I'm not saying don't go by the rules, but at the same time, just be careful with how you're playing with KDP, because it is still a small business that you're starting on Amazon, and you want to make sure that you're not breaking any of Amazon's big rules and then get your account or books rejected, removed, whatever. So you definitely do not want that. The third thing I wish I knew is that people might copy your books, and that is okay. And here is why. So one thing I've learned since getting a lot of sales, since doing well here on YouTube and imparting my KDP knowledge, is that there are some people out there who, upon looking on Amazon, upon watching my YouTube channel, they see the books that I've created and are like, you know, I think I'm gonna copy that. And so they go ahead and they copy it, create a design that's nearly identical to mine or mirrored after it, especially if using the same titles, the same descriptions. And yeah, that irks me, and I feel like it would irk most people. So like, you know, I try to look on the positive side and be like, you know, I'm flattered. Like someone thought my book was so good that they decided to copy it, but at the same time, they're trying to capitalize on my success, and I'm not okay with that. So I actually had an experience. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear the full story, but let me just sum it up. Someone came to me and told me that one of my books had been copied and then shared the Amazon link. I looked at it. This was one of my composition books, and it was a very, very similar design. Honestly, I thought mine was a bunch cuter, so I don't know how that person even made any sales. But yeah, it was a very, very similar design, which could have been seen as just mirroring after, but what was really bothering me was the fact that they copied the exact same title and the exact same description and everything. The only thing that was different was the design wasn't exactly accurate, which thankfully, because I love my design and I really don't want people copying it. So I saw that and I was like, okay, what do I do? I wasn't sure if it fell under copyright infringement or anything, but I just went ahead and went to Amazon and I filed for copyright infringement. I wasn't sure, but I figured it was worth a shot. And you want to know what happened? So it turns out that that book got removed from Amazon, and all the other books this seller had also got removed from Amazon, except for one, which was their original one that they had actually created. Because yeah, as I looked at that seller's profile, I realized that they had a lot of other books that were very similar to mine, probably copying off of other people as well. So like almost all of their books got removed, and like I did a little happy dance in my head when I saw that, like, you know, karma. So people may copy your books, but if that happens, you can file for copyright infringement. Just make sure that it, like, is a copy. There is a difference between someone like copying and just creating a book very similar. In this case, it was copying. It was similar, but also too much copying to the point that they got copyright infringement because I filed for it. So don't worry about people copying your books. There is something that you can do, and Amazon will take action if you file against them. But remember, if people copy your books, it is because you are successful, and do not ever forget that. The fourth thing I wish I knew is that seeing people review your books will make your day, I am telling you. Reviews on Amazon are hard to get. What I've heard is that I think it's about every 100 sales you'll get one review. It's something like that, I think, is the average. So reviews are hard to come by. So when you get them, it is like a diamond in the rough, and it is so exciting, especially when it is a good review. So far I've only gotten good reviews, thank heavens. But oh, you guys, like the reviews that I have gotten made my heart melt, and it has just made KDP so incredibly worth it. Obviously the sales and everything, and just being able to design and just enjoying the whole process has made it worth it. But actually being able to see people review your books, and sometimes they'll even post pictures of them, like, it is one of the most amazing things in the world, and I have absolutely loved it, and that has been one of my favorite parts. And I always just get so excited when I just see one of my books, when I'm scrolling through Amazon and I see a new 5-star review that I hadn't seen before. Oh, I just get so excited, and I have to click on it and I look over. Sometimes it's just a rating, sometimes it's an actual review, but it's just always so exciting to see. And if you want to check out my favorite review from one of my books that I got, I don't know which site it is, but I will link it up here somewhere for you to go check out the video. The fifth thing I wish I knew is that you should never ever stop experimenting. When you first get started, you really want to get a feel for KDP, create a bunch of different books in a bunch of different niches, and it all comes down to seeing what you enjoy creating the most, what you do the best at when it comes to design, and what gets the most sales. Once you find that happy medium, the KDP world is your oyster. But keep in mind, just like I said at first, you might see something to that effect, like how I did with composition books, but it might change as the year goes by, which is okay because you should find a whole variety of different niches that you enjoy creating that do well, and then figure out what times of the year they do the best, and then go around that. And for example, with composition books, like with holidays, you can create Halloween composition books, Valentine's Day composition books. You can adapt your niche to work with different times of the year, so you can enjoy creating those types of books more year round. The next thing I wish I knew is that it is not all about quantity. When I first started, my mindset was kind of, if I create like thousands and thousands of books, like naturally I'm gonna get a bunch of sales. And the thing with that is, yes, though that might be true, you're not going to be able to develop a stronger customer base, and it's also going to be more difficult to get consistent sales for certain books. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I have created hundreds of books that have not sold before, but my books that are doing the best are some of my most popular books, and they make multiple sales a day. So honestly, I would say that it comes down to a good balance between quality and quantity. I say quantity because it is good to experiment and get a feel for what you enjoy creating. Just create a whole bunch of different books. Don't worry about how many it is, but always make sure that you are putting 100% effort into the designs that you create. Because when it comes to books on KDP, the one thing that many people look at most is going to be the designs. So you want those to stand out, and you don't want to just put in half effort. Always put in 100%. Create high quality books every single time, and then most likely you will strike gold with a few of them and make multiple sales. It's most likely not going to be on every single book that you make a sale. However, one of the nice things though to keep in mind is that once you create a book, it's out on Amazon for forever. So you can create thousands, and as long as there aren't any issues with Amazon rules, they will be there for forever and be able to make sales. Like, I had a book at one point that I had created just when I was starting to get into coloring books. It was kind of not my best work. I was just testing out coloring books and I created this book. And then a few months later, I made a sale on it for the very first time, and then I made another one like another month later. So there is something to be said for quantity, but at the same time, always put 100% effort into everything you do, and really just make sure that you are experimenting and trying out a bunch of different niches, and just make sure you're always putting high quality content out there on Amazon. Otherwise, you're much less likely to make a sale if you just create thousands of low quality books rather than a few hundred high quality books. And now the seventh thing I wish I knew is to use a book dimensions calculator. Guys, this is the most practical tip that I'm going to have on this list. When I first started KDP, one of the trickiest parts, and I know it is a tricky part for many of you because I've helped out a few of you, and a lot of times it comes down to this one issue, and that is figuring out the right book dimensions. Because the thing with book dimensions is that there are so many factors. You have to factor in the dimensions of the book. So even if you're doing a 6x9 book, it's not going to be a 6x9 book. It's going to be 6x9 on both sides, and you're going to have to make sure you include the bleed and the spine. And the spine is variable depending on your page count and also sometimes the paper that you use. So honestly, it's really, really hard to figure out all those numbers on your own. And I know when I first started, that was one of the hardest parts for me. I'd created a notebook and I'd uploaded it, and then KDP was like, oh, those aren't the dimensions that we wanted. And I was like, well, crap, now what do I do? And so I did a lot of trial and error. I ended up doing it the hard way and going through BookBolt and letting them figure out the dimensions of my book. And then I just made it even more complicated by downloading it as a PDF, figuring out the dimensions of that PDF, and then uploading that to Canva using custom sizing. And honestly, it does not have to be that complicated. There are a bunch of book dimension calculators out there. And in fact, KDP has one. I'll make sure to link it below if you guys want to go check that out. Because honestly, it is a total lifesaver when you're creating designs, because it can be so hard to figure out what the dimension should be for every single book. So make sure to use a book dimension calculator. Like, I'm not kidding you guys, it is so immensely helpful. The eighth thing I wish I knew is that KDP is such an amazing creative outlet. The thing with KDP is if you're not into design, if you wouldn't consider yourself good to be design, I've never been good at design, just don't enjoy it at all, then you are not going to enjoy KDP, you're not going to do well on KDP, because design is one of the largest aspects. That's usually what I like to say. When it comes down to KDP, there are three things you need to pay the biggest attention to, and that is design, keywords, and your niche. And design is honestly one of the biggest ones, because guys, if your book isn't pretty, it is not going to make sales, and that's kind of the bottom line. So if you enjoy graphic design, I'm someone who's always kind of enjoyed graphic design. In my day-to-day life, most of the work that I do is editing and proofreading, which is kind of more black and white work. But at the same time, I love graphic design, and so KDP is an amazing way for me to be able to express myself creatively, and I absolutely love it. KDP is pretty much all about design, and you don't have to worry about any of the extra work because, as I said before, you can create a book and then publish it, and it will be out there forever. And if someone decides to purchase it, Amazon will do the whole process of printing it and shipping it out for you. So pretty much all you have to do is figure out the niche that you're going to do, design it, figure out the right keywords, get it out there, market it if you choose, and that is honestly it. And one of the biggest aspects is design. So if you like graphic design, then KDP is totally something you should pursue. And honestly, it can be super duper rewarding as well. So if you're into graphic design, or if you want to be into graphic design, KDP is a great way to express yourself, to be able to have your creative outlet. So yes, if you are into graphic design, then you will definitely love creating books on KDP. Alright, you guys, that is about it. Now, I would love to know, what are some things that you wish you knew before you started KDP? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. I would super duper appreciate it, and I would love to have you. Alright, you guys, hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Bye!